Hi everyone. Starting this channel, I really couldn't predict the amount of players joining or returning to the Quake scene, and the huge number of new records being produced. I love that Quake speedrunning continues to grow and thrive, but I simply can't keep up with everything that's happening if I try to cover all the details of every new run. So I thought I'd try a few shorter videos. I'll take the huge backlog of awesome new world records and at least cover the basics. This time it's an amazing run by Muty on Quake's second secret map, E2M7. In the past few years, I've watched on as most of my old Quake runs fell to the game's top new players. Losing some records hurt more than others, but my 30-second easy run of E2M7, recorded all the way back in 2006, was my very last record remaining on the tables from the golden age of Quake almost 20 years ago. I'd talked to some runners about this map before, and a few people had attempted to beat my record over the years. We all agreed that there was room for improvement, but that a new full second record wasn't going to happen with the route as it stood. In May this year, Muty finally cracked the code and found enough new strategies to squeeze the time down to 29. The basic route of E2M7 hasn't changed a lot throughout the game's history. There's one main shortcut, namely skipping most of the map by jumping up to this ledge near the beginning. You head from there through this corridor, through this button sequence, and then through this hallway into the final room where these two buttons open up the exit. The first shortcut was crucial, and players found increasingly efficient ways of performing the skip. The first players, like Gunnar and Justin, use a simple slope jump. After that, players began to use a grenade jump, and with each new record, they were finding faster and faster ways to set up the shot. By the time Timo recorded his 31-second run in 2002, he had come up with this insanely cool setup using the slopes inside the pipe. I was blown away by this trick when I first saw it, but when I started messing around with the run, I realized that using the slope on the corner of this pipe was still faster than waiting for the grenade to explode. You miss out on the small boost, but you still reach the next area slightly quicker overall. In the following corridor, I then added an additional grenade boost from this Death Knight, keeping the speed into the button room. After this room, the previous runs all looked quite similar. Robert first had the idea to place a well-timed grenade for a boost through this corridor as soon as these bars were raised. Getting past the enemies, especially this fiend, is a pain, but with a bit of luck you can keep the speed all the way to this button at the end. Players gradually improved this section with smoother movement and boosts. From there it's just a matter of killing the zombies and pressing the two buttons behind them. If you don't blow yourself up in the process, like I nearly did, you head up the stairs to the exit. So where did Muty find time to save? It turned out he needed several small tweaks. First, he found a completely new way of doing the main shortcut. Instead of using the original slope like Gunnar, placing a grenade like Timo, or using the small slope like I did, Muty instead jumped on top of this zombie and did a direct grenade boost from there. You can't jump when landing on top of enemies in Quake, but the damage he takes is just enough to push him up onto this platform, keeping a bunch of speed in the process. This new strat saved about 0.2 seconds over my time. Next up was the biggest new addition. Instead of boosting off of the Death Knight through this bridge, Muty used the earlier Ogre to do a massive boost over the top of the whole area, keeping speed into the button sequence. This was one of the tricks that we'd all theorized before, but we knew it wasn't going to be enough on its own. Joe first implemented the boost in his 32-second Nightmare skill run, which is an incredible record in its own right, where he boosts past hordes of random enemies in tight corridors. Muty executed the new boost perfectly, and by the time he hits this last button, he's about 0.8 seconds ahead of me. After the button sequence, he again adds a couple of very small tweaks. Instead of placing this grenade directly on the ground, he bounces it back off the far wall. This way it lands closer to the rising bars, allowing him to boost a fraction of a second earlier. In the final room, instead of killing each zombie in turn, he places a first grenade on the ground, which explodes when the zombie is revealed after pressing this button. This saves another tiny bit of time, as he can jump directly into the button without needing to shoot the zombie first. Muty knew that all of these new tweaks combined would be enough to just barely break the 30-second barrier, and on the 19th of May, he finally hit the target. Muty's time is 29.96 seconds, and unless a radical new strategy is found, I'm confident enough to say that this record won't be broken. I'm a tiny bit sad to see my last record disappear, but I'll always love seeing Quake pushed to its limits by the world's best players. Congrats Muty, and GG.